So let's start with Succeed at Interviews. I hope you're all ready for some great insights to preparing for an interview. I have to say that Judy uses a really great technique that has been I found quite interesting. And actually it's been quite useful and successful for her and her clients. And it's a bit different to the traditional way of preparing for an interview. So it's definitely going to be an insightful session. And as we start today, it will be great to get to know you all. So please do use the chat box to introduce yourself and tell us, where you are in terms of your job, maybe what sector you're working in, and even, where you are in your job search or your career. And to start off, I'll give you a little introduction to myself and Inclusive Recruiting. I'm the Candidate Network Manager at Inclusive Recruiting, and we work with organisations that are actively trying to become inclusive in the workplace. And the way we support our clients is through one or more of our services that we provide. So one being through diverse recruitment services. We also have a jobs board called Inclusive Hires. And we also provide inclusive training. So that could be inclusive recruitment training, inclusive leadership training, etc. And finally, EDI consultancy services. We are an organisation, and I might sound a little bit biased saying this, but I do truly believe it. We are an organisation that is true to what we say we are. And you know what they say about becoming an EDI focused organisation? Well, one of the things, and that is that it has to come from the top. And so for us, it does. And that's why bringing you events like this one is so important, because we recognise that the workplace, and in particular, leadership teams need more representation of diverse talent. Hence, we have created the Inclusive Recruiting Network events to bring you events, resources, and support to help you progress in your career. And moving on to today, well, we've got the amazing Judy Bullimore with us today. She will be presenting this session. Judy is the queen of interviews. I love that title. A dream job mentor and a career expert, as featured on BBC Radio. And with that being said, I'll hand you over to Judy.
Thank you. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come away from this presentation. I've got one thing on here saying somebody's trying to get in. Shall I just switch that off, or are
no, you I can see it. Yeah, done.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you feel comfortable and you can taking your camera off, then wonderful. It's lovely to see people's faces. If not, then as Halima said, just use the chat. So I'm so excited because it's what it says on the tin. It's all about succeeding at interviews. And I'm going to share with you today how to do that in practice, from answering interview questions, knowing how to position yourself with confidence, taking kind of ownership of the interview process, so it doesn't feel like the interviewers hold all the cards. You absolutely have the power to have a wonderful and memorable, impressive interview. So I'm going to share with you how to do that. And we're going to cover how we're going to think like an employer and an interviewer, so you can understand some of the things that they use to make decisions on whether to choose one candidate over another. By understanding that, you will have kind of a strategy for how to meet that. And then I'm going to share with you a technique that's going to help you answer any interview question, as well as prepare for an interview as well. So yeah, we're going to cover a lot, and because it's 10 past and we're supposed to be finishing at 1, what I'm going to say, just housekeeping wise, is the way that I've structured this is that if we do this together, all I ask is that you just come with a bit of an open mind and be willing to take part and do some of the exercises that I'm going to set as we do this together. By the time that we get through it, you will have a lot of information, as well as being able to put it into practice. So I just ask that you just trust my process. And I will be looking at the comments, though Halima's going to help me out, because I'm just conscious that I want to stick to giving you as much useful information that's going to make that impact when you interview next. So I'm going to focus on that. If you have any burning questions, put them in the chat, and we'll have hopefully have enough time at the end to answer them. If not, then you could DM me directly on LinkedIn, or Halima is going to help together, aren't we? We're going to put together some sort of resource that answers any burning questions that we don't get done. So yeah, just trust the process. If you've got a pen and a notebook, that will come really in handy for today. So yeah, have a pen, have some paper, and let's do it. Let's get into this. Very quickly about me, I'm an employment specialist, I'm an interview coach. I work with people across sectors, oil and gas, finance, education, marketing, you name it. I write CVs, I do LinkedIn strategy sessions. I'm a career advisor, and obviously I share my interview techniques, which are really, really successful. So that's why I've got a big smile on my face, because you're going to learn so much today. So I'm just going to get into it. What I want to start with, I'm going to just share my screen and get my little presentation up here. Which one is which is the question? This one. Start from current slide. Right. I would like to ask you a question. And I'm just going to minimize this because I can't see what I'm doing. My question to you is this. What do you want the interviewer to see, think, and feel about you? So I want us to picture interviewing, our next interview. When you have switched off that camera, if it's an online interview, if it's a face-to-face interview and you've walked out of that room, think about or write down 3 things that you would want the interviewer to have seen, thought, and felt about you after you've interviewed. Because by doing this, what we will be doing is we'll be setting that intention about what impression you want to make in your next interview. And what it will do is it's going to give us clues about what's really important to you. And if you feel comfortable about sharing that in the chat, then please do. So 3 things that you want an interviewer to see, feel, and think about you. What would that be? And if you feel comfortable, share that in the chat. And I'm just going to read some of the chat, what's in the chat at the moment. So 3 things that you want an interviewer to see, think, and feel about you. And welcome to everybody who's here. So, Yoga, you want the interviewer to see that I'm in everyday world and I'm professional. Okay, so what does that mean? Professional, you want them to take you seriously, you want them to realize that you have that you're passionate. What do we mean by?
Yeah, if I may use the mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Yeah, sure. No, I think what I meant is basically, you don't want to overplay it. I mean, you have to be pretty much, reflect the way you're going to be if you get the role. But at the same time, it's a position where, you would need to demonstrate certain, attire or certain way of doing work, So the professional part is mainly, I would say, for, that they can trust you, that you can do it.
Okay.
So I started writing about the thinking part, which says that I want them to think that they're fit for the role, which we're being interviewing for. And the feel is probably that you can be trusted.
Yeah. Okay, that's wonderful. And some of the other things that people have said here is that you want the interviewer to know that you're confident, that you're more than capable, that you're enthusiastic. What else have we got? That you're really experienced and knowledgeable. So what I'm going to say here is, look at the 3 things that you've written down. And I want you to really start to realize that that is your power in an interview. You have that within your control. Is there any way of bringing the screen back to me, Halima? Or is that
yeah, so if you go at the top view.
Yes, so here, you know how sometimes you can go into an interview and you can feel as though you're at the mercy of the interviewers and that they're making the decisions, but this is the bit where I really want to empower you to realize that if you want an interviewer to know that you're confident, to know that you're more than experienced for the role, to know that you are committed and enthusiastic and aligned to that role, you have that within your power to show that. And the way that you will show that confidence, that enthusiasm, is through the words that you use and through your personality and through your presentation and your delivery. So have those words really clear in your mind. And then as we go through, we're going to I'm going to show you how to prove that you are all of these things: enthusiastic, knowledgeable, and experienced. Okay. So what I'm going to go on to now is to share with you what an interviewer is thinking, but wouldn't always overtly say. And this will make more sense when I have my presentation back. And here we go. So I'm going to share with you the 3 things that an interviewer doesn't tend to tell you, but what they expect. So the first one is to be impressive. Now, when I say impressive, what I really mean is impressive in that, from their point of view, they are having to make a decision. They're having to differentiate between one candidate. They might have been interviewing, 6 candidates today, 20 candidates, 30 candidates. They've got to choose 1, 2, or how many positions they're needing to fill. So they need you to be impressive on the day. Now, the way to be impressive is in a mixture of ways. You can choose impressive examples. So examples that make the interviewer go, wow, that was really amazing. I need that in my team. So the impressive examples like the impact that you had. So if you delivered an event, that event attracted X amount of people and it meant that this could happen. And as a result of that, that happened. So impressive examples, impressive results. Another way of being impressive is to have that kind of confidence in your abilities so that you are delivering an impressive and engaging interview. So those interviews that can sometimes feel like it's a really kind of factual, robotic exchange of questions to answers. They're not nearly as impressive and memorable and engaging as the ones where they just felt a bit more conversational, they felt a little bit more relaxed. But ultimately, to make a decision from an interviewer's point of view, they need to be impressed by the person that they are listening to and seeing. So a second thing that they are looking for is to bring the true you. Now, what do you think I mean by this? Just initial thoughts. When I say bring the true you to interview, what do you think I mean by that? Bring the true you. What does that actually mean? And maybe put that in the chat, what your initial thoughts are. So bring the true you,
Authenticity. Yeah.
Yes,
Your
Cara.
personality.
Yeah. What else? Bring the true you. What does that mean to you?
I think during interviews, a lot of people will go in with the notion that they need to be reserved and very professional. And sometimes professional doesn't really cut it and doesn't really say who you are. Who is Judy really?
Yeah.
And I think that's when you start to relax a little bit, that's when the true you comes out.
Absolutely. And like what Joe says, turn up yourself, not a version of yourself at work. Otherwise, the reality may not match the person once in the job. So the reason why, let's think about it from their point of view, the reason why they absolutely need for you to be authentic and to bring your true self on the day is because it takes time to recruit. They are filling a position, they are filling a need. They need this position to be filled, but also for somebody to take that role and run with it. Because it could be, what if it's do or die for this organization post-pandemic? If they don't get things in line, if they don't increase business, they might not be a viable business in 2 years' time. Maybe they need somebody to come in and sort out all the processes, or, you know, provide this amazing customer service, because from their point of view, if that isn't completed to company standards, then people's jobs are on the line. So it's in their benefit to choose wisely, to give that position to somebody who can absolutely deliver. So actually what they are testing for on the day of an interview is, are you genuine? Can I trust in you? This is what they're thinking. Can I trust that you are the person that is going to do our role? Do you believe in this role? Do you trust in your own abilities? Because we need to be able to trust in that too. And are you being genuine, or is this a kind of fake version of you today? Because there's two stages, isn't there, to getting a job? There's the application bit where you get shortlisted for the interview. And then there's the bit where you need to get past the interview for the job offer. Now, the shortlisting stage, the application stage, was their way of testing whether you have the skills and experience. So they've rounded everybody together that they feel have what it takes to do the job. Now it's about, not only have you got the skills and experience, but who's the person behind that CV? Who's the person behind the application? Just as who just was talking on I heard we was talking to each other, but I don't know who it was. But exactly what you said, who was talking a short while ago, they need to know how genuine you are.
Was it Izzy, maybe, I think?
Izzy, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly what you were saying. So that is why being yourself on that day and turning up, as somebody was saying, turning up that personality to 100% is in everybody's benefit, because there is only one of you. Yes, you might have similar skills and experience to all the other candidates that are interviewing on the day, but those candidates are not you. You have unique experiences, and no one else has your personality. So by bringing it and bringing what you're all about is going to work in your favor.
I guess it's also, sorry to cut you, it's also to see, obviously, if you are bringing your true self to the table, it's also to see whether actually you want to be in that organization anyway, because you know what they say is like, it's a kind of two-way process as well. So it might be that you're bringing yourself and you get to see that actually the result that you're getting and what you're seeing from the other side in terms of the interviewer, you're not liking that, and therefore you might feel that actually it's not really an organization or someone who you want to work with.
Yeah, by doing that, you're actually calling out alignment to the role, Because if they don't like the true you, then quite frankly, maybe that's not the organization that you want to be working in. So it helps. And then finally, number 3, what they don't always say is actually the format of how you answer the question isn't nearly as important as the way you answer it. So the format isn't as important as the answer. So what I mean by this is, who here uses or feels like they have to use the interview STAR technique? So the STAR technique being that if you're asked a competency-based interview question, that you have to answer it with the situation, the task, the action, and the result. Who here has this kind of assumption or this pressure in feeling that to interview, I must use the STAR technique, or I must use a technique and I must structure it in this way? And there's no other way of structuring it. It has to be the situation, the task, the action, and then the result. Because I find that this feels like it's such a common assumption.
I do that. Yeah. I definitely learned that technique.
Okay, and that already puts a load of pressure on people, because who talks in the STAR technique? When you're recalling an experience or a story or a memory, who then goes, I did this and then I did that and then I did that and that was the result? It's like an artificial way of talking, but it is very commonplace to be used in recruitment and for answering competency-based questions. Yes, and so this is exactly the technique that is prescribed. Now, I've worked in the NHS, I've worked in the local authority, I've worked with people who were applying in the civil service, and absolutely they ask for the structure of the STAR technique. So let's just think about it from their point of view. An interview is the means for the employer to test whether or not you've got the skills, whether or not you've got the experience, and whether or not you are the person that they need to carry out their position. So they already place a lot of expectation in an answer. And because from their point of view, they are interviewing maybe lots of people, what they want to avoid is for their interviews to take too long. So they don't want to interview a load of candidates and they're taking ages to answer their carefully crafted questions, because they've got to think about the time in which to get through. So having a structure from their point of view is helpful because it keeps people to time. Also, it guarantees that they're going to be able to get what people's results were and how they did it. They really want to know how you did something, because going back to the original thing that I was saying, they need to know the person behind the glossy CV, the glossy application. They want to know the person who's in front of them on the day, the real version of that person. So by asking them how they achieved something, it's their way of going, oh, they approached it like this. That's how they think. Oh, that's what that means, they've got skills in that. So they're using it as a tool to test your skills, experience, and what kind of person you are. A values-based interview. So I'll come back to that. So yes, it's in their benefit to ask for the STAR technique, but get this, they're only asking it to get the information that they want. If you was to answer their question by giving them the results, by giving them the impact, by explaining how you did it, then you're giving them what they want. You're answering the question. They want you to answer it. They want to know how you did it. But the order in which you speak is less important to them than just giving them a full answer of how you did it, what you did, and the result. So for all the people that are using the STAR technique and are getting so kind of bogged down by the structure and the order of how to speak, as opposed to just knowing this is why they want me to answer this question. They just want to know how I did it. I'm going to really go for it here and talk naturally. As long as you answer their question, that's all they're bothered about. It's not as important as the order in which you speak. And this will become much more clearer when I share the technique that I'm going to very shortly. I've been told following a talent interview that I talk far too much in interviews. I didn't know what was for STAR. Be 2 to 3 minutes max attention. I find it really hard. Most people find the STAR technique quite difficult to use in practice because it's a really artificial way of talking. But don't worry, got a better technique. That's like the souped up 10 times better version of STAR, which I'm going to share with you. So now that we have gone through the 3 things that an interviewer is thinking that but doesn't necessarily tell you. So where's my computer doing this to me? Now we're going to go and look at a real job role, because what I want to do is I want to apply what we're talking about to a real life situation, so that you can understand how this all fits together, so that by the end of this time that we have together, you know how to do it all. Think like an interviewer and talk in the most powerful way that's going to leave an impression. So I have chosen a role that I'm going to share. Is everybody with me here? Is everyone okay? You're happy for me to move on to this? Okay, so I tried to choose a role that obviously everybody's got different experience, and you might not be all applying for the same level of role, but I've gone for a management role just to illustrate, particularly if anybody is wanting their next job role to be a step up, or it's going to carry any level of responsibility, if it's going to be involving management, anything like that, then this example is going to work really well. Also, the question that I'm going to attach to this applies to most industries, which is about project management or a time that you've led a project. So hopefully you'll find you'll be able to get a lot from this example. So what I'm using this job role to do here is to help you to approach applying for a role in a really, really strong way. Because when you do this, from the time that you start job searching and applying, if you follow this process, it's actually going to prepare and set you up for the interview very nicely, because you would have thought through everything that you need to think through before you get to the interview stage. So just trust me on this one, and then at the end you'll see how it all fits together. So I've chosen this role. It's at Marie Curie UK. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a charity, and this is a role of a process improvement manager. As you can see, it's a full-time role. It's UK home-based, and it's between 35 and 45.
Are you sharing that, Judy?
Judy, are you sharing? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't share my screen. Terrible. Here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Right,
That's all right. It's there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just a role that I found on LinkedIn, and I'm using it for the purposes of today because the job spec isn't as long as most are. Now, this is a charity. I don't know if you've heard of it, Marie Curie, and they provide, why does my computer say that? They provide support and services for families and people that are in needing long-term care, and they're a great charity. But they're looking for a process improvement manager. Salary 35 to 45, full-time, UK home-based. So what we're going to do, I'm going to read this out. We're going to read it together, and I'm going to share with you the techniques of how to prepare for your interview questions and prepare for applying as well. So it says, the purpose of the fundraising change and standards team is to enable people, teams and the organisation to work in a more efficient, effective and compliant way. So as you know, in a person's spec or in a job description, they always will give clues of who they're looking for, what they're looking for, therefore what you will need to demonstrate in an interview situation. So here it's saying you're going to be part of the fundraising change and standards team, which is the team that drives efficiency, effectiveness and compliance for Marie Curie charity. We identify and deliver opportunities to work in a faster, easier and better way so that more of the organisation's time, effort and money benefits the people and families the charity serves. The team provide expertise and advice to fundraising, for business process improvement and design, project management and risk and compliance. So the team focuses on business process improvement, project management and risk and compliance. And the process improvement manager is required to work collaboratively across the organisation, bringing people together to optimise the processes, systems and data that support their fundraising activity. They've said two things that they're looking for here. We are looking for experience of process improvement, project management and business analysis. And we're looking for somebody with an ability to work with a wide range of stakeholders to align goals, collaborate effectively and deliver results. And that's all they've really said that they're looking for. And they've listed all the things that's in it for the person that applies, which is all to do with their work perks, like having a season ticket loan and continuous development. And it says here, for more information or an informal chat, you can contact this process improvement manager, which would likely be the line manager, senior process improvement manager, the line manager to this role, process improvement manager. So before we learn the technique, what are your thoughts on a role like this? What do you feel like you would ultimately be doing? Because I don't know about you, sometimes the job title either does say what it does on the tin, or sometimes you see a role and you think to yourself, there's so much more to this job than they have actually explained. And this is the bit where when you're in an interview, you're trying to understand what they really want so that you can talk about how you can do that, how you can solve their problems. But unless they've kind of made it clear on the job description, it's kind of up to you to hope that you're choosing the best examples for what they're looking for. So best way to prepare for an interview is just to dissect the role as best you can. So what are your initial thoughts here about what this role is likely to actually be doing, or what do you think is going on behind the scenes? If we was to put our detective hats on, what's going on here? Why do they really need a process improvement manager, and what kind of environment do you think you'd actually be walking into?
So Joe says it sounds though this job has been sparked off by something going wrong, maybe compliance ? So yeah, could be.
Yeah, what else? What are your initial thoughts of a role like this? What do you think predominantly you're going to be having to deal with or having to do?
Sorry, I think you're walking into a mess. So you're there to tidy up, basically. The fact that it's called process improvement shows that the processes are not working at the moment. So you are going in there to literally make it more efficient. And the fact that I think it was Joe who mentioned that compliance is an issue. The fact that they put compliant in the job description as well means that there probably have been issues with compliance. The fact that they need you to work in a faster, easier and better way means that at the moment processes are slow, difficult and the worst. So basically they've given you the clues in plain sight, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just going to stop the share so I can come back to you.
And so they've got more comments about they need someone to get different teams to work better together and start collaborating.
Yeah, hence why they've actually only said the clues are there when they're only saying they just want somebody to do two things here. They want that. What they're not saying is we need you to absolutely know your stuff when it comes to change management, dealing with difficult people, streamlining, strategy. And when they say we want you to work collaboratively across different departments, what they're really saying is we need a people person here, and we need someone who's really assertive, because it is like a do or die situation. Get compliance wrong, particularly in a charity, what's going to happen? What could be the worst case scenario if compliance, risk management strategy is not done right? What will happen to that charity, or what could happen to that organisation, do you think?
That's struck off.
Yeah. One wrong move and the reputation of a charity, that's happened before. People just won't donate. People will avoid that and go to another charity, and then they'll lose the whole income. It'll get in the news, it'll be catastrophic. So what they're not saying here, and this is how you kind of think through a job description and position yourself really strongly for it. You would be that person who knows how to do this. You're basically applying for the role saying, I know the place needs whipping up into shape. I know your processes need whipping up into shape. I'm the person to do it because I have a strategic mind. I've got business acumen. I am a people person. I have worked collaboratively. It's almost like you then need to think about how are you going to position yourself as the person who's going to solve all of these problems. And if you go through this process first, then you can think about whether you even want to do the role as well. Now, the fact that it said that you could speak to your potential line manager is another opportunity here, because if you've got a strong kind of interview technique, you could be ringing that person up and already selling yourself as the person who they really want on their team, or to be that person that you want to line manage. So what I'm doing this for right now is to help you to read between the lines of the role description, so that you can start choosing more strategically your best examples and understanding truly what type of person they're looking for, because they're not going to say, we've got about 5 people who have been there for 15 years and they do not like change. We need you to come in and deal with those people. They're not going to say that. But what if that's who they're looking for? So always think, kind of read between the lines of the role description, and then think, right, how can I position myself as the person who can do this? So now I am going to bring up an actual role, an actual question that could very likely be asked in an interview for this role. And I think I'm in the wrong presentation. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. Does this all make sense, by the way? Is this making sense? And is this helpful? Are you finding?
Yeah, it's helpful.
Good. Right. Okay. So I hope you've got your pen and papers ready. Now, you can either approach this as though we're applying for this role at Marie Curie together, or you can think about it for your industry and your dream job that you want to apply for. Before you do this, I'm just going to read it out, and then we're going to do it together. So I don't want you to answer this question right now. I just want you to get it clear and maybe write it down so you can see it in your own notes. Tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. How did you approach it and what was the result? Tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. How did you approach it and what was the result? Maybe just write that down. Now, based on what we have just gone through and reading between the lines of a role description, why? Why would they ask a question like that? Other than the obvious reason they want to know whether you've actually delivered you've had success in delivering projects. What's really going on with this question? Why would they ask that? What do you think they're really wanting you to be able to demonstrate that you can do? And maybe put your initial thoughts in the chats. Why would they ask, tell me about a time you've managed a successful project? How did you approach it and what was the result? Let's think about it from their point of view. Why would they ask such a question? And now I'm going to get the chats up. Oh, I'm glad it's making sense. Why are they asking this question? They want to know what success looks like. Absolutely. Bearing in mind this role or the role that you might be doing, your ability to manage a project might be the difference between excelling in the role or kind of failing in the role. So they need to know how to do it. They want you to show methodology. Yes, they want you to know, they would need to know how you go about project managing, because they are using this example to work out whether you can do it for them. So that you can articulate the ingredients. Absolutely, they're testing you. It's a test question. What you've done to overcome any problems. Yeah, they're testing your character as well. They're testing how you can deal with all the challenges that a project can throw up. So now that we have you've written this down, I want you now to choose your best example of you managing a project that shows you as the person that can answer the why they've asked this question. So we've just identified that they need to know your methodology. They need to know that you understand what project management is in all its facets. They need to know that you know what success looks like. So if you was choosing your example, what would be yours? What do you think would be really a really good one that maybe shows that you've had success at this? Maybe think of a project where you was really proud that you overcame loads of challenges, or it's a project that had a real tangible result, like you increased profit, you acquired new business, you had something signed off, you won an award, your team got acknowledged, something was implemented. Choose an example that you feel would be really impressive and show you at your best. And let me know if you've got one in mind. I'm just going to get the chat up. Has everybody got a kind of an example of them delivering a project successfully? Yay or nay? An example that shows you at your best, shows that you can do this really well. And let me know if you've got that. Yeah. Have you got that? Okay. Is everybody with me still? I just don't know. Okay, so just a time where you have planned something, or you've delivered something, or you've thought something through, ideally to completion. Okay, when you've got this example in your mind, I want you to just think about what springs to mind when you think about that memory. When you think about that project, this example, this memory in your mind, what do you instantly go to? Is it a person? Is it a feeling? Is it the pat on the back that you got when you delivered it? What image springs to mind when you think about this memory or this example? And just note that down or share it in the chat. So you've got this example. What springs to mind when you're remembering it? Can you visualize it in your mind? Quality and timeliness of it. I did an event for a sports relief and I set up an event which got the customers to donate money by doing a spelling competition. I felt proud of getting customers to donate money. Wonderful, Colleen. When you're thinking of this example, what's the strongest image that comes to mind? Could it be when you saw, do you see your customers in your mind? Do you see the actual sports event? What springs to mind? Changing the opinions and decisions of the budget holders. That is a great example. And can you see in your mind that time when you knew that you'd done it, that you'd actually changed their opinion? So you see the customers in your mind. Wonderful. Right, this is what you do whenever you are thinking about your examples. Have it clear in your mind, because when you talk from memory, it is going to be so much more alive when you're talking about it to an interviewer. Okay, so now that you've done these three things, you will be ready to answer the question. So what we've just done there is we understood the why. Why are they asking this question? You've chosen your best example based on that, the why, which means that you've chosen really wisely. You've chosen an example that is going to prove to the interviewer that you can do this and you can do this really well and that you know what success looks like. And you're visualizing your example. So this is going to cut out, in an interview situation, forgetting, panicking, and not remembering all of your examples. By focusing on these three things, you've got it clear in your mind, you're memorizing it, and you're about to talk from memory, which is a much better way of talking than to do it in like a logical way. So now we're ready to answer the question. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge the question with a statement. So tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. How did you approach it and what was the result? Let's acknowledge the question with a statement, such as, managing successful projects is something that I've done throughout my career. I thrive when managing a successful project. Project management is really important to me. I feel like I know what success looks like. Write out a bold statement by acknowledging the question about project management. So this is what I need you to do. Acknowledge this question with your own wonderful statement about how you can do this. Even just acknowledging it by saying, yes, I have experience of project management, or I've had great success in managing projects. And just allow yourself to just write a confident statement about yourself. Yeah? And let me know if you've done that. So let's acknowledge the question with a statement. Where's my chat gone? There it is. So yeah, are you with me here? You're acknowledging this question with your own statement. So even if you can't write it right now, just say it out loud. What if I was asking you this question? Tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. How did you approach it and what was the result? First thing you do, just acknowledge the question by saying, yeah, I can do this. Second step, Let's start with the result. You've just thought about this example. You know what the result is. You already said that for Colleen here, for example, you set up a event and it got customers to donate money. So tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. It could be project management is something that I really enjoy. I'm going to choose the example of when I did an event for Sports Relief because it generated, how much money did it generate, Colleen? How much donations did it do? It generated X amount of money from the customers, and it was delivered through doing a spelling competition. Straight away, you've answered half, 3/4 of the question. And you've got your result out nice and quickly. And what that's doing now is, you know how I was saying that you want your interview delivery to be impressive. The minute you say that you've done this with success, guess what? Your interviewer is leaning forward and all they want to know is how you did it. So they're with you on your journey, on your story of how you achieved that result. So it's a much kind of natural way of talking about your success. Oh, I'm so sorry that this hasn't finished yet. There's only two more steps and we would have done it. Okay, so at this point, the interviewer might have read your role description, might have read your CV, they might have read your application, but let's never assume that they know all about you. You know how I was saying, it's you have it in your power to show them who you are, what you represent, and how great and aligned you are for the role that you're applying for. So this is your time to control what they know about you. So you could just say where you was working, what you was doing, what you was responsible for, to help answer this question about, tell me about a time you managed a successful project. So thinking about the example that you've chosen, what role was you in? What was you responsible for? What were the challenges that you overcome? So it could be that, tell me about a time you've managed a successful project. I'm choosing this example because it generated, X amount of customers for an event. It was when I was working in the role of sports manager or event manager, and part of my role was to lead all events across the organisation, or whatever it might be. This is your opportunity to just remind them of the context of this example that you're choosing here. Managed projects in my work and seen the effect it had on my colleagues. I was a PR ambassador and I got, oh, wow. So Colleen, this is how you can say it. You get that in because that's impressive. And you're just telling them that you enjoy what you do and you've done it before. So never assume that they know all about you. Use this step to just set the scene a little bit. I'm just seeing whether there's any other, no problem that was not picked up by management. My attitude towards this. Okay, so always just set the scene, just give them a little bit of information as to the context of your example. And then finally, how you did it. So, you know, when you're in a presentation and you have a slide or you have bullet points, there's nothing worse than wholeheartedly relying on slides, because there's nothing better than a bit of connection, a bit of talking, with the person in front of you. So they just want to know how you achieve the result. And they're testing on your ability of your skills and your experience. So thinking about the context of this question, especially if it was for the Marie Curie job, and you know that you're going to be going into an environment where you're going to be dealing with change management and you're going to be bringing in processes and implementing strategy, then what they're testing on is what you bring. You're a unique individual. They just want to know how you approach things, because they're going to need for you to do that within their organization. So thinking about your result and thinking about the example that you're choosing, what were the maybe one thing that was absolutely crucial, that changed the game for you, that made it a success? Or two things, or three things? What were the three things or one thing that made all the difference in this example to achieving the result? What did you do? Was it that you called a meeting? Was it that you looked at the numbers first? Was it that you got your team together? You had some difficult conversations? What was it that made all the difference? Three things or one thing that made all the difference to you achieving this result. Because that is it. That's all you really need to do. You just need to explain the key thing that made all the difference to achieving the result. Okay. Let me stop sharing, because so that's, where are we? Sorry, I'm so sorry that people have to leave. It's 3 minutes past. Without the time. So where are we now? We've thought about what we do before we answer a question, which is to understand why they're asking it, to choose your best example based on what you know they want to hear, and then have that clear in your mind by visualizing it. And then to bring that answer to life in a better way than the STAR technique would be to acknowledge the question first and foremost, because what that does is it shows confidence. Secondly, go in with the result, because it's fresh in your mind. You know it's going to impress them. You've chosen it because it's an impressive example. So say it, because then all you have to do is explain how you achieved it. So what did you do to achieve it? It could be one thing that you did, it could be two things, it could be three things, but just allow yourself to talk about those and just set the scene, bring them into where you need them to be so that this example makes sense to them. So just remind them that when I was working in, the local authority, my role was to do this, and I was at the head of strategy. I led. My responsibility was to lead projects across the organization. So the way that I approached this project was that I did X, Y, and Z. And that is it. And by going through this process, you're preparing for interview, because if you do this before you actually apply and you've written these things down, this is exactly the same thing that's going to go into your CV. This is exactly the same thing that would go into a cover letter. It's the exact same thing that would probably be updated on your LinkedIn profile. These kind of key examples of you at your best in project management mode or dealing with stakeholders, the things that they're looking for. So can you see how by thinking of it from an interviewer's point of view, as well as your own, you're giving a fuller answer and you've got the strategy as well. So does this make sense? And I hope I haven't rushed through it, but good news is I've actually got all of this on my website. I'll just quickly show you before you go where you can access it. Here we go. So here is my website, home, work with me, Meet Judy interview technique. If you go to the interview technique tab, you can download this interview story impression technique here, which will take you to all the steps that I've just gone through. And also on my website, you can access all my resources totally free, which will help this make a bit more sense. I've got loads of tutorials on how to have confidence at interview, what to do around the STAR technique, all sorts, video tutorials. I don't know why my computer is so slow. I think it's because I've got so many tabs open. But yeah, if you go to judybullimore.com, you can download everything there.
And of course, we'll send out an email as well with some free resources as well, which you'll be able to find on our website as well. So look up for that email.
Yeah. Is there any kind of takeaways that is there anything that you would do differently, or is there anything that's kind of resonated with you today that you might do differently on your next interview? Do you think? Anybody?
Yeah, if I may, Judy, I think first of all, thanks very much. I mean, like, it's really kind of, put things together, because you have all the pieces, but it's probably been very clear, in how to kind of quickly, focus on the most important part, which I would be doing this afternoon, because I'm going to interview at 4.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go back to whatever I have sent and whatever they've sent me, and then I'll just need to work it backwards and go and put it in this order. That's what I'll do.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you can see how it can help really prepare for interview, and that acknowledgement statement is your confidence as well. So even if you did one thing, it would be to acknowledge the question with a confident, bold statement to say, yes, either I enjoy doing this, or I've got experience of doing this. It's something that I thrive in doing, because that's the bit where you get to show a bit of your personality. A lot of people don't know where to inject their personality in the answers that they give. That's a really good way of doing it, just by starting and saying, yeah, I really enjoy doing this, or it's something that I've had experience of doing throughout my career, or in my current role, one of my key responsibilities is to do this. And it's one of my one aspect of the job that I really, really enjoy.
Absolutely.
Things like that.
And Joe mentions the visualization, which is really important, because you often hear that when you're doing your CV or other thing, but using that technique in your interview preparation actually was new to me, and so obviously Joe's taken that away. So great, thank you. I'm really glad that everyone's enjoyed the session. If you do have any questions that aren't coming to mind as of yet, that's absolutely fine. You can always email me at halima@inclusiverecruiting.co.uk, and I will work with Judy to get your questions answered, no issues. And yeah, thank you very much, Judy, for being here and presenting. It's been lovely having you, and thank you for everyone joining. And like I say, if you've got any questions, or if you need any support, or you're looking for a job and you want to send me your CV, you can email me. I will also email you after the session with some free resources and some information. So do check, to keep an eye on your inbox, and also check your junk. Sometimes my emails fall in junk. Sorry about that. I don't know what to do about that, but do check in there. In the next couple of days, I will definitely email you and reach out to you. We do have more events happening, so feel free to go on to the Inclusive Recruiting website, the Candidate Zone page. Our next session is on 6th of December, which is about overcoming imposter syndrome. So if you would like to register for that, feel free to, like I say, go over to our website or drop me an email. And yeah, that's it. It's been a pleasure being here today, and I look forward to meeting you all again next month.
And also, if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, then do so, because then I can actually see your profile and actually put a face to the name as well. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.